If you really want to understand what a huge bank is up to, you don't always look at the flashy headlines. Sometimes the real story is hidden in plain sight, buried in some pretty formal documents. So today, that's what we're doing. We're going to decode the official notice for Axis Bank's big annual meeting and see what it really tells us about their plans.
All right, let's get into it. The bank has 14 key proposals for its 31st annual general meeting. Here's our game plan. We'll start with the basics, the routine stuff. But then we're going to get to the really juicy parts. How much the top eggs gets paid, their plans to raise massive amounts of money, and the bank's inner circle of business partners.
So, first things first. What even is an annual general meeting, an AGM? And maybe more importantly, why should any of us care what a bank's shareholders are voting on?
The easiest way to think about it is like a company's big annual town hall. It's that one day a year where the actual owners, the shareholders, get to have their say on the most important decisions. They're voting on leadership, on the finances, and on the grand strategy for the year ahead. It's a pretty big deal.
And just so you know, everything we're talking about today, it comes straight from this document right here. This is the official notice for Axis Bank's 31st AGM. It's the playbook that's been sent out to every single shareholder, spelling out exactly what's on the table.
Okay, so like any big meeting, they gotta start with the housekeeping. This part might sound a little dry, but trust me, it's the essential groundwork that keeps a massive company like a bank running the way it's supposed to. Let's take a quick look.
Think of this as the corporate version of checking the oil and kicking the tires. The shareholders have to formally approve last year's financial numbers, give the thumbs up on paying out dividends, and reappoint directors whose terms are up. That's what retiring by rotation means, by the way. It's all about keeping the bank on solid legal and financial footing.
All right, now for the part everyone really wants to know about, the money. This is one of the most watched sections of any company meeting. Shareholders are being asked to approve a revised pay package for the bank's leadership. So, let's follow the money trail.
So the million-dollar question, or in this case, the multi-core question, is about the pay for the managing director and CEO, Amitabh Chaudhry. This is a huge vote, right? It sets the tone for compensation for the person leading the entire bank. And the number they're putting on the table is a big one, 8.86 crores. But that number, well, it's just the tip of the iceberg. The real story is always in the details, in the breakdown.
Okay, now this is where you see the real story. That total is made up of a few key parts. The basic salary, just over 5 crores. But then you add on over 1.5 crores in retirement benefits and almost 2.3 crores in perks and allowances. And that covers everything. Housing, a car, a driver, even club memberships. It's the whole package.
Okay, so we've talked about pay. Next up on the docket is how the bank plans to fuel its future. They're asking shareholders for permission to raise a truly staggering amount of money. This is all about funding their growth and expansion. Think of this as the bank building its war chest. In a market this competitive, having access to a huge pile of cash gives them the power to invest in new tech, lend more money, or even scoop up other companies to get ahead of the competition.
First up, they're asking to raise their total borrowing limit to an absolutely massive 3 lakh crore rupees. This gives the bank the runway it needs to borrow money for all its day-to-day operations and bigger long-term projects.
Next, there's another 35,000 crores they want to raise by issuing what are called debt securities. The simple way to think about this is the bank going to big investors and saying, hey, lend us a huge amount of money through things like bonds, and we'll pay you back with interest.
And finally, another 20,000 crores. But this one's different. They want to do it by issuing new equity shares. So this isn't a loan. It's them selling tiny little pieces of ownership in the bank itself to raise cash. It's permanent capital they don't have to pay back. All right, for our last section, let's pull back the curtain a little bit and look at the bank's inner circle. This is all about getting the green light to do business with companies that are very, very close to Axis Bank.
So what in the world is a related party transaction? It sounds complicated, but it's pretty simple. These aren't just any old business deals. Because the companies involved are so closely connected, maybe through ownership or having the same people on their boards, these deals need special approval from shareholders just to make sure everything is fair and above board.
And this is who they're talking about. This is the inner circle. They're asking for a blanket approval to conduct business with some really key partners, including their main promoter, LIC, other companies in the LIC family, and an associate company, Axis Max Life Insurance.
So, when you take a step back and look at all this together, You see, it's not just a bunch of boring resolutions, right? This single notice is basically the bank's entire blueprint for the future. Shareholders are voting on the three pillars of the whole operation: its leaders, its money, and its most important relationships.
And that really brings us to the final question. After seeing what they're proposing for executive pay, for this massive fundraising, and for their business partnerships, you have to ask yourself, if this were your money, your investment, how would you vote? It's a pretty good reminder of the real power and responsibility that comes with owning a piece of a company.